about to enter the final stretch of the road to WrestleMania 41, and many of the feuds have already been cooking for several months, and a few of the feuds have barely even started. So in today's video, before we enter the month of April, we are going to grade every single current active WrestleMania 41 feud. I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what could make it better, and I'll give it an overall letter grade. And that letter grade is to dictate how good the build has been, but also how overall excited I am for the build and the match. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And don't forget, if you want more than just daily wrestling content, come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, we also upload every single day, except we upload content that never gets uploaded here on YouTube, which includes content like watch-alongs with footage that we can never show here because it would just get blocked due to copyright. So come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's jump into the video. All right, let's start things off by talking about what we can safely assume is going to be the night 2 closer of WrestleMania 41, that being the undisputed championship match between Cody Rhodes and challenger John Cena. In terms of how we got to this match, it's pretty self-explanatory. We had a #1 contendership match at the Elimination Chamber that John Cena won. Bada bing, bada boom, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes was made official. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. However, there have been a lot of people that haven't loved the build up to this match, predominantly because as of the making of this video, at least, we haven't really had any actual confrontations between John Cena and Cody Rhodes, aside from what happened at Elimination Chamber. Sure, we've had them in the ring at the same time, and yes, we've seen and heard what evil heel John Cena looks like and sounds like, and we've heard what Cody Rhodes thinks of this new John Cena, but we've yet to actually have a war of words between these two. And I think that is intentional. I think WWE knows that this is the part of the program that we're all looking for, and it's part of the reason, and honestly, the new John Cena shtick to not give us what we want, and I think they're just wanting us to clamor for it more and more and come back every episode of Monday Night Raw, hoping that this is the episode that John Cena finally opens his mouth and talks to Cody Rhodes. So at first glance, like at surface level, it might sound like this is not a very hype or very well-built WrestleMania feud. However, this is entirely built off of the fact that WWE pulled the trigger on the biggest story move and story plot device that they had, which is turning the 20-year babyface face of the company, their Mickey Mouse John Cena, and making him into the biggest bad guy that the WWE has today. That alone is a reason to be excited for this match. That alone is the reason why this is the main event of the show, and that alone is the reason why it scores really high in terms of how excited the overall build for me has been. What's exciting about this is that there is clearly still so much more room for improvement. There is still so many things to be explored, things that haven't been done. These guys haven't laid a finger on each other since Elimination Chamber. These guys haven't talked about The Rock. These guys haven't talked to each other. John Cena hasn't really explained why he attacked Cody Rhodes in the first place. So there is still so much to unpack, so much to explore. And even though they haven't done any of those things, this is still the most exciting match going into WrestleMania 41. Hell, it was the heel turn that really got this road to WrestleMania going, because so many people thought that this road to WrestleMania just sort of felt a little bit lackluster, especially compared to last year's insane road to WrestleMania. So with that being said, even though there is still a lot of room for improvement, this still scores an A in terms of overall hype and excitement, in my opinion. Now let's look at the women's side of things, and let's look at the WWE Women's Championship match between champion Tiffany Stratton defending against Charlotte Flair. This feud has struggled over the last several weeks. In fact, I feel like they made a mistake in starting this feud as early as they did. I kind of wish that they had held off on really announcing this feud until after Elimination Chamber so that we didn't have to stretch out the material that hasn't really been particularly that exciting. In terms of how we got to this match, it was already controversial to begin with and led to a lot of fan distaste, with Charlotte Flair returning from injury, and as she tends to do when she returns from injury, she just wins, and she won the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble match. Now, she teased as to who she was going to pick. Maybe she would go for Rhea. She even went down to NXT and had a face-off with Julia, but we all wanted her to pick Tiffany Stratton, and it didn't take very long for her to pick Tiffany Stratton, and here we are. I think part of the problem with the storyline in this feud is that WWE, let's face it, hasn't done a particularly great job at building their actual champion in Tiffany Stratton. Stratton. When you think about Tiffany Stratton's championship reign, it still has an asterisk lingering in the back of our heads, which is that she's never actually beaten Nia Jax in a proper one-on-one match. She cashed in on Nia Jax, and then she beat Nia Jax in a tag team match at Elimination Chamber. In my opinion, to really have helped elevate Tiffany Stratton going into this match, going into the biggest match of her career, where in terms of just overall legacy, there's a major discrepancy between these two. They should have just had Tiffany Stratton win a one-on-one match against Nia Jax at Elimination Chamber to help prop up Tiffany Stratton. Now, even though there were several weeks of lull where Charlotte Flair would just sort of watch Tiffany Stratton from the distance, we're actually getting like a proper war of words. We even had an admittedly entertaining, albeit kind of botch-filled giant brawl with all of the security guards between Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, where Tiffany Stratton swanton twice and both times missed Charlotte Flair, but I still thought it was pretty hype. The best part, while also at the same time the worst part of their program, came in the most recent interview between these two in conversation via satellite, where Charlotte Flair, let's call it how it is, fellas, absolutely ate Tiffany Stratton alive. Tiffany Stratton looked bad. Tiffany Stratton looked like a complete rookie, which is, if that's what they're going for, if they're going for rookie versus, Mr. Miyagi level types of threat in Charlotte Flair, then I guess mission accomplished, but I really don't think that's what they were going for. So overall, there is still a tremendous amount of improvement to be made in this feud to get us excited. I do believe that once the dust settles from this match, that we're going to forget about the lackluster feud, because the match is going to be amazing. Very similar to how we had a lackluster feud between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley going into WrestleMania 39, but everybody forgot about the lackluster feud because of just how damn good that match was. I feel like Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte has the ability to get to that level of quality in ring, but it also has several weeks to significantly improve on what Charlotte and Rhea were not able to do going into the WrestleMania 39 Classic. So because of this, I am going to give this a C. Not a failing grade, but not a great grade, but still a lot of room for improvement here. Oh, I know a lot of you clicked on this video purely to hear my opinions on this feud right here. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match between the champion Gunther facing off against Jey Uso. In terms of how we got here, it's very similar to Charlotte Flair. However, it elicited very different emotions. When Charlotte Flair won, it was a lot of anger, a lot of distaste. When Jey Uso won, I think there was a lot of confusion, and from my end, there was a lot of intrigue. So right from the get-go, this was a very buzzworthy decision to have Jey Uso not only win the most stacked Royal Rumble that I've ever had the pleasure to witness my eyes on, but also eliminate John Cena in the process in the final two. That to me was a giant vote of confidence to do that for Jey Uso. A vote of confidence that a lot of fans didn't feel like Jey Uso deserved. I don't fall in that camp. In fact, I fall in the camp that when Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble, I was intrigued, confused, but I was down to see what they were about to cook up. Unfortunately, after what this point has been nearly 2 months of cooking, they have not cooked up a very good meal, unfortunately. In fact, it feels like this storyline in this feud is all over the place, where it doesn't seem like they know what they want to build this storyline off of, because when Jey Uso won, it seemed like the storyline was that Gunther thinks he's too good for Jey Uso and doesn't want to fight Jey Uso, so he's going to make Jey Uso's life a living hell between now and WrestleMania. It's then shifted to Jey Uso is in his head and has the yips and is tripping over himself, and there might also be this aspect of family with Jimmy maybe getting involved and Gunther maybe attacking family moving forward. So to be fair, I think they recognize that the first attempt at building this story wasn't really landing, and now they're trying something different with the storyline with Jimmy and the storyline of Jimmy Uso has the yips and forgot how to wrestle. It hasn't landed with me, the aspect of the storyline where Jey Uso forgot how to wrestle, but the Jimmy side of things absolutely, to me, helped revitalize this story. I sincerely hope that they decide to focus more on the aspect of family for Jey Uso as opposed to turning Jey Uso into a comedy of errors on this lead up to WrestleMania. I really hope they don't do that. But hey, even though I don't like it, I will also have to acknowledge that a lot of people did. A lot of people do like the storyline that Jey Uso is now a part of, where he has this mental block and mental barrier because of all of the beatdowns that Gunther has laid on him, and now he doesn't think that he can beat Gunther. What really has not helped this storyline in this feud, aside from, the like narrative piece and where it is that they're trying to go from point A to point B, is the stops along the way from point A to point B, because they had Gunther spend the better part of 4 weeks feuding with Alpha Academy, and Jey Uso seemingly still, by the way, feuding with A-Town Down Under. That to me does not scream we're treating these guys like main eventers when we're having them beat or have like competitive matches with people that are in the lower mid card. We're talking about guys that aren't even close to sniffing tag team or mid card championship gold, let alone competing against people that are in the world heavyweight championship picture. So WWE, in my opinion, did both Jey Uso and Gunther a giant disservice by pitting them against people that, in my opinion, just should not be in this conversation this close to WrestleMania against the Royal Rumble winner and the world heavyweight champion. I think what is to like here is that there is an air of optimism here in these last several weeks, now that it seems like WWE has picked a lane that they want to go down. I can at the very least appreciate that. So long as they stop being all over the place with what kind of storyline they want to tell, so long as they can hone in on one thing, to me, that can only lead to positive things, even if it doesn't end up being a storyline that resonates with me. I'm going to give Jey Uso and Gunther so far a C-, because there was a lot of falls and a lot of trips, literally and figuratively, along the way, but there is still room to salvage this. I truly believe that. Now let's talk about Bianca Belair versus Iyo Sky, currently one of my favorite WrestleMania programs going on right now. On paper, just like the John Cena situation, this is a very simple way as to how we got here, but it really wasn't simple at all. We had a number one contendership match at Elimination Chamber, and Bianca Belair won that Elimination Chamber match, guaranteeing her spot in a WrestleMania match against Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Except, psych, 2 days after, Iyo Sky magically, seemingly out of freaking nowhere, won the Women's World Championship from said Rhea Ripley, and now turned the match into Bianca Belair versus Iyo Sky, which is a rivalry that has lasted years, a rivalry that has delivered more often than not excellent matches. Except, it's not just these two anymore, because Rhea Ripley is back in the picture, put her name in a contract, now has a match against Iyo Sky with Bianca Belair as special guest referee for some weird reason, even though she doesn't know how to be a referee, and that's exactly what she said. And the winner goes on to face Bianca Belair. Whew, isn't that a bit of a conflict of interest, making Bianca Belair the special guest referee to the match where the winner goes on to face her? Listen, sometimes wrestling, if you try to make sense of it, it makes absolutely no goddamn sense. And this is one of those situations, but hell, I'm on board with it. I think they're overthinking it. I think they're overanalyzing this and trying a little bit too hard, but it's still fun. It's still good. This storyline has so many people on board, whether you think Rhea should be a part of the match or not. Like, people are talking about this storyline and the people that are involved, to the point that there is a strong contingency of wrestling fans that believe that this should be the night one main event. And to me, that speaks volumes to the overall fan base's view of the star power that's in this and the fans' expectation of how good this match can actually be. It's high on both accounts. One of the reasons why this storyline has really worked as well is Iyo Sky has been embraced by the fans, specifically the European crowd that has really propped up Iyo Sky to make her feel like a star in terms of overall popularity on the same level as Bianca and Rhea Ripley. Hell, it's actually kind of insane that the European crowd has been booing Bianca Belair for seemingly no reason, because Bianca Belair is right. Like, Bianca Belair has been spitting nothing but facts. I do think that once they get stateside, that Bianca Belair is going to receive the cheers that she's accustomed to, because booing Bianca Belair, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense. But hey, people boo and cheer who they want. I'll never complain about that. But hey, all of the shenanigans that are involved in this match, the potential quality of what this match can deliver, the kind of crazy roller coaster of emotions that these three women, the title and the fans, have gone through because of this storyline and feud has been nothing but a thumbs up. I have to give this an A. There's a little bit of improvement that could have been done by not overthinking this and adding Bianca Belair into a special guest referee, but hell, who knows? I'm recording this before that match even happens, and maybe that'll be awesome too. Who knows? Now let's talk about the other confirmed match, that is Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. As of the making of this video, there's no sort of stipulation input for this match. You would think that a match with this much hatred and this much history deserves a stipulation, so we'll see. I think the only reason why I would think there might not be a stipulation is just the hell that Kevin Owens has gone through recently by having that insane ladder match and then the unsanctioned match. Can you imagine putting him through another insanely brutally violent match against Randy Orton back to back to back PLEs? But hey, I personally hope that they do it. All right, sometimes we can be a little bit of sadistic wrestling fans. I think you really need to decide when you consider this feud and this storyline starting. Does it start at the start of the year going into WrestleMania 40 when they're both going after the Intercontinental Championship and trying to take out Logan Paul at WrestleMania 40, and then they're tag teaming going into against Timu Bloodline, fighting full Bloodline, and then all of a sudden we have the situation with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens that implodes Kevin Owens and Randy Orton's friendship to the point where Kevin Owens hits the devastating pile driver on Randy Orton that kept them out for several months. So does it start at the pile driver? Does it start at their friendship? I don't know. All I know is that there is a lot of history that spans several years with these guys, because I've seen some people on Twitter saying, oh, this is such a rushed feud. They started this like way too late. No, honestly, this feud technically has been going on for months. You just sort of saw the official build of the WrestleMania match starting when Randy returned at Elimination Chamber. Now, in terms of what's happened since Randy Orton has returned, there hasn't really been much aside from a few words exchanged, which was admittedly a fantastic promo between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, a promo that got me really excited for this feud and really excited for more future back and forths. And then we also had Kevin Owens, protect Carmelo Hayes from getting punted by Randy Orton. But the story narrative is really interesting. We have Kevin Owens trying to be remorseful, apologizing to Randy Orton and saying that he stopped Randy Orton from punting Carmelo Hayes because he doesn't want Randy to get back into that dark place. Meanwhile, Randy Orton's like, go fuck yourself. We're going to kill each other at WrestleMania. I think that this is one of the most organic storylines in feuds. In fact, I feel like this is one of those storylines in feuds that can kind of just coast to WrestleMania and we're all going to be okay with it. I don't think that it needs too many twists and turns to get us excited for it. I'm going to say that so far, this is an A. Now let's talk about Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk in a triple threat match at WrestleMania. So aside from Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley and Iyo Sky, this is the other match that's in conversation for being the night one main event. And currently, I would say that it's probably the odds-on favorite to be the night one main event based on the star power, based on the potential quality of the match, and based on the story that's being told between these guys, a story that, if you think about it, really spans over a decade at this point, with CM Punk being the dad of the Shield. And it's not just as simple as, hey, when did the feud between all three of these guys start? No. There is a trifecta of different feuds going on here that when you put them together gives us this WrestleMania match. We have the never-ending feud between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, these guys that are just destined to fight even probably in the afterlife. We have the feud between CM Punk and Seth Rollins that has lasted for years at this point since CM Punk returned to the WWE, and even before that with all of the crazy awful things that Seth Rollins would say about CM Punk in interviews. And then we have the new blossoming feud between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, which really seems to stem about who gets the heart and the accolades and love from the tribal wise man. So there is a big web that is interwoven that brings us to this storyline in feud, but it really brings all three guys together at the Royal Rumble, with CM Punk eliminating both Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, the giant brawl that ensued afterwards. We then have the insane destruction of both CM Punk and Seth Rollins at Madison Square Garden after the match that Seth Rollins won because of Roman Reigns in the cage match. Honestly, the brawling and all of the physicality between these guys has been great. Unfortunately, I feel like there's still a lot to be desired from the conversational point, from more of the narrative pieces, which we all thought we were going to get on the most recent episode of Smackdown when all three were in Italy about to talk to each other, but it once again ended up in a brawl. It's funny because it's kind of like the opposite of what's going on with Cena and Cody Rhodes, where Cena just refuses to acknowledge Cody. These guys refuse to not acknowledge each other and just want to kill each other. Now all we need is more conversational pieces. pieces, more narrative pieces to guide us to this being the night one main event. There is still a lot to love here. I still think it's a brilliantly built feud. There is still a little bit of room for improvement. It's still an A for me. Now from here on out, these are the matches that as of the making of this video are very likely to happen but have not been confirmed. Starting with AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Unfortunately, I don't think that the WWE has done a great job of actually building this. They had one interaction kind of with Logan Paul cutting a promo, but then it ended up being more Logan Paul versus Andrew Schultz. We just sort of had AJ Styles go out there and make the save on Andrew Schultz. We had a backstage segment between AJ Styles and Logan Paul, but that's about it. We have an upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw where it's being heavily advertised, the segment between Logan Paul and AJ Styles, which I think is really what's going to get the fireworks going for this match. But as of the making of this video, there's really not much to go off of, so I'm going to give this an admittedly fairly low grade of C-. They still have basically the entire feud to build. Another one of the matches that as of the making of this video but has been clearly built to WrestleMania is Jade Cargill versus Naomi. And this is a story that goes back several months with the mystery whodunit storyline of who attacked Jade Cargill. We found out at Elimination Chamber with Jade Cargill's return that it was Naomi with the colossal beatdown. She whooped that ass. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, the confession in the fantastic promo that was Bianca Belair and Naomi crying with one another. Naomi desperately trying to plead her case, trying to explain why it made sense, why Jade Cargill was the bad guy in this situation. Then Jade Cargill coming out, beating that ass again. And then on the most recent episode of SmackDown, Jade Cargill losing her winning streak in the WWE at the hands of Naomi, who cost her the match, giving the win to Liv Morgan. This has been brilliant in my opinion. This feud to me has elevated both of these women to the highest level that they've ever been within the WWE. I think that this is the most important that Naomi has felt, and this is the most superstar main event that Jade Cargill has ever felt in the WWE. So far, so good with this feud. This feud is doing wonders for everybody. The narrative pieces of this feud have been absolutely freaking fantastic. The physical aspects of this feud have been freaking fantastic, and we still have more weeks to make this even better. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is the only one on this list that scores an A+ with what they've been able to do. With the little amount of time that they've had, they've built an actual amazing feud and have made Naomi must-watch TV, something that she hasn't been, maybe arguably ever in the WWE. This has done wonders for everyone. The other match that I think is pretty much a lock is Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, with the storyline being that Damian Priest has been the hyena that has benefited and profited along the way every single time that Drew McIntyre has been getting screwed, whether it was the cash in at WrestleMania 40, whether it was what happened at Clash at the Castle, whether it was what happened at Royal Rumble, at Elimination Chamber. It was always Damian Priest that stood tall when Drew McIntyre felt like he was screwed. Sorry, let me say it like Drew McIntyre. You screwed me. Okay, I can't do accents. Listen, the complaint has never been that Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest sucks as a feud. The complaint from fans has always been that we feel like Drew McIntyre should be doing bigger things. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether this is the right feud for Drew McIntyre. We're simply talking about the feud between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. Have they done a good job building it? Are we excited for it? I gotta say, I was not excited for it at first, but these guys have done an admittedly really great job at getting this feud over, and it's helped that they've done the majority of the buildup of this feud during the European tour, where the Europeans are just eating everything up. Drew McIntyre could go out there, fart, and everyone would love it. So I think it was really smart of WWE to have the majority of the buildup in this feud be in front of this crowd, because I don't know that the American crowds would be propping this feud as well as the European crowds have. Listen, the narrative makes sense. Like, Drew McIntyre has a totally fair, justifiable reason to want to go after Damian Priest. Damian Priest has logical reason to want to defend himself and think that Drew McIntyre is just a little bitch. It might not be the most glamorous feud, but they've done a good job of building this. I'm going to give this a B. The last feud here that we can confidently say is a WrestleMania program feud is the terrific 10 of SmackDown. The Motor City Machine Guns, Pretty Deadly, DIY, the Street Profits, and Los Garzas. These guys have absolutely transformed SmackDown's tag team division, made tag team wrestling awesome again, made tag team wrestling WrestleMania worthy. I think we are all expecting expecting a 5-way match. We're all expecting all 5 of these teams who have all individually contributed tremendously to this tag team division to all get their moment at WrestleMania, because let's face it, they all deserve it. And WWE has done an amazing job of not just making the tag team division feel strong and special, but making each one of these tag teams feel like an individual character within this division. They even managed to do it for Los Garzas. The most vanilla dudes that WWE had in their tag team division are now very interesting with a lot of character depth. And that goes for everybody. Even Pretty Deadly has broken out of the yes boy thing and now actually has a bit more meaty character development and exposition that makes them really unique aspects of this tag team division. It's not just we're good wrestlers all around, it's we're all individual characters in this giant dance that is the tag team division, and it's the fact that they've managed to develop individual characters amongst all of them that makes this be must-watch TV, not just good old tag team wrestling. One of the things that I could say they've struggled with, and I think they're going to fix here in the next couple of weeks, is that they haven't done a great job at bringing all of the teams together into one singular storyline. Because within the tag team division, we've had fragmented stories. It would be Street Profits and DIY feuding with one another. Meanwhile, Los Garzas are feuding with Pretty Deadly. Motor City Machine Guns are also feuding with DIY. They've been doing a lot of interconnectedness amongst individual tag teams, but they've yet to actually bring them all in together. But I think that's the next step. And once they do that, I feel like every WWE fan is going to fall in line and get on board with whatever program these guys do at WrestleMania. So until they actually do the coalescing and bring all of the teams together for a singular WrestleMania storyline, I'm going to give this a B. Still a lot of room for improvement, but damn it, it's been good and it's been really entertaining. All right, so I know that you can make the case for other matches, like you could say Braun Breaker, Penta, Judgment Day, all of that stuff. You could say New Day and War Raiders, that's developing, but those are still so early on in their creation period that I don't think they're worth talking about right now. So once we're a couple of days out from WrestleMania, I'll redo this video with every plot going together, going into WrestleMania 41, but I'll leave it at that for now. That's it. I'm done. Get out of here.